We've all heard of the poisoned Halloween candy myth, but what if I told you that it wasn't a myth and that it really did happen? The killer was called the Candyman. Hi, I'm Meg. I talk about true crime. Let's get into this case, and happy Halloween. Texas, 1974. Ronald Clark O'Brien lived with his wife Diane and 2 kids, his 8-year-old son Timothy and his 5-year-old daughter Elizabeth. They seemed like a pretty normal, happy family. They were religious, they attended church, etc., etc. And on Halloween night of 1974, exactly 49 years ago today, they went trick-or-treating. Ronald's wife Diane did not go trick-or-treating with him and the kids, but he did go with a neighbor and his 2 kids. During the trick-or-treating, they got to someone's door and the kids knocked and no one answered, so the kids got pretty impatient and they just went on to the next house. But for some reason, Ronald stayed behind for a sec, but it wasn't long before he caught up with the group again, and he had 5 pixie sticks in his hand. Ronald claimed that whoever was in the house eventually answered and handed him 5 pixie sticks. If you don't know what a pixie stick is, it's one of those like plastic tubes with like the sugar stuff in them. He ended up giving 1 pixie stick to each of his children, 2 to the neighbor kids, and then 1 to a boy he recognized from church. The night then came to an end and everybody headed home. Right before bedtime, Timothy asked his dad if he could have a piece of his candy, and according to Ronald, the piece of candy that Timothy decided to eat was the pixie stick. He apparently struggled to get the actual powder out of the tube, and his dad was helping him, and he immediately was like, ew. Timothy claimed that the sugar tasted really bitter. At that point, Ronald gave Timothy some Kool-Aid, kind of just to wash the gross taste away. And immediately after that, Timothy started complaining that his stomach really hurt. He then apparently started vomiting a lot and convulsing. Ronald was apparently holding him while he was being sick, and then Timothy just went limp in his arms. They tried to drive him to the hospital, but by that time it was too late, and Timothy passed away in the car less than an hour after eating that pixie stick. The community was terrified when they heard about this, because obviously all of their kids had just gone trick-or-treating as well and had been eating their candy. So a bunch of parents just started giving the Halloween candy to the police. They were taking everything they could find and just handing it in hopes that they would find out what caused it. The autopsy determined that it was in fact the pixie stick that killed Timothy and that it had cyanide in it. Enough cyanide to kill 2 to 4 grown adults. Timothy was only 8. At this point, I think that Ronald must have told the police who else got the pixie sticks, so they were able to track those families down. And luckily, none of the other kids had consumed theirs except for one family. When the police arrived, the parents could not find the pixie stick anywhere. They ran up to their son's room and found him asleep with the pixie stick in his hand. And thank God this boy wasn't able to open the packet because it had been stapled, which is very suspicious looking. I don't know how no one noticed that. But he wasn't able to take the staple off to open the pixie stick, so he just gave up and fell asleep. But if he had cut it open or anything, he would have been dead. I can't imagine how his parents felt. Oh my god, I think I would have been sick. Obviously, police started questioning Ronald about what happened that night, and he said that he couldn't remember what house he got it from. They actually walked him around the neighborhood 3 separate times before he eventually pointed at a house and was like, that's the one. He claimed that once the kids tried to knock and no one answered, they ran away, and then the door cracked open. It was dark, the lights weren't on, and a hand kind of stuck out of the door and handed him these pixie sticks. The only detail that Ronald could give about this arm that he saw was that it was hairy, so most likely a man's arm. And so police's next steps were to find out who owned that house. Police looked into the man who lived in that home. And the man worked at an airport, and he hadn't been home on Halloween night until 11 p.m., which was way after the trick-or-treating happened. And there was around 200 people who were able to, be an alibi for him. So he was definitely not home. At this point, after everything, there was only one person who was really a suspect, and that was Ronald. Police then started digging into Ronald's past, and what they found was very interesting. Ronald was $100,000 US in debt at the time, which would add up to be around $500,000 in today's money. Also seemed to not be able to hold a job because he had had like 21 jobs in the past 10 years. Only months before Timothy's death, he had taken life insurance out on both of his kids. And as it got closer to Halloween, he kept upping the insurance on his kids. It got up to around $300,000 in today's money, which was, I believe, around $60K back then. Which begs the question, were both kids meant to eat a pixie stick that night? He also called the life insurance company the day after his son died. The day after. To make things even worse, police found out that he had tried to buy cyanide only like months before, but found out it was too expensive and just left the pharmacy. At this point, they had enough evidence to arrest him. I mean, it was pretty obvious. He still claimed innocence, though. Ronald was arrested on November 5th of 1974. They were trying to charge him with 1 count of murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. He pled not guilty, and so it went into trial. During the trial, a few people came forward. So a chemist came forward who was acquainted with Ronald, and he basically was like, Ronald was asking me how much cyanide would kill a person. That is a little bit suspicious, if you ask me. People who knew him also claimed that he wouldn't stop talking about cyanide months before Halloween. Yet another man said that Ronald asked him where he could buy cyanide. Like, his motive was to get the life insurance money and be out of debt a little bit. Like, surely he would have been a little bit more discreet. Ronald's wife, Diane, also came forward saying that Timothy was not the one who chose to eat the pixie stick. Ronald was like, oh, you should eat one of those. Yeah, you should eat that piece of candy right there, the pixie stick. You should eat that one. The jury took a while to actually make a decision, but they did find him guilty in the end. Ronald was executed on the 31st of March, 1984, when he was 39 years old. His wife, Diane, had divorced him the moment, basically, he was found guilty, and she is now remarried. I can't imagine what it's like to be Elizabeth, the daughter, because I think that she was meant to die that night as well, because he had taken life insurance out on the both of them. So, who knows? How messed up do you have to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm in debt. Oh, I'll just kill one of my kids. Oh, I'll kill my kids. It's fine. I can just make more. Like, it didn't even work. There was no, it's just awful. I feel so bad for Diane. So that's the case of the Candyman. I hope you guys found that case interesting. I thought it was really interesting. I'd never heard about it. I hope that you have a wonderful Halloween. Let me know how it's going. I'm not doing anything today. I'm just gonna chill and watch, Halloween Town or something. I hope you guys all have an amazing Halloween and don't eat any suspicious looking candies. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.